the meetup where we can just chat about things, get to know, work out where we stand, what things we're working on. The agenda is currently up on screen. Um, there's not many people at the moment, so I'll just talk through what I have. Let's make it a bit bigger so it's easier to see. Um, so yeah, welcome, and let us get started. Once that does its things, cool. Um, yeah, so this is the meeting for June. Um, the agenda's up, so welcome everyone. And just cover some progress reports, what we're working on. So Julia will be back now uh, in a bit. So for the moment, I'll just talk about what I've been working on. Um, Working mainly review and merging pull requests, but there have been some fairly large um, changes and pull requests there that have been going on. Um, in some of those have been things like formatting and general code appearance PRs, um, which have been great. Some more to do, but for the most part, that's been upgrading that, and then part of that was including Dependabot, and so we've been upgrading some of our Python dependencies. There's still some outstanding, but they require rather large um, changes to code or cause dependency nightmares, mainly in Airtime Celery and PyCairo from Airtime Analyzer. That if we replace Cylon and Argane3 with FFmpeg, we shouldn't actually need anymore. So I've kind of left those for the moment, and to just essentially replace them with FFmpeg, and then I won't have to do that all those issues anyway. Um, then in terms of formatting, we now have pre-commit support and linting CI jobs thanks to Jula, and that's all working quite nicely. Um,
Hey, Kai, sorry I drop in right now. Do you hear me right?
yes, hi.
Yeah, yeah, it's my first time I try to say something in the community meetings. Sorry if my accent is a bit like French. I don't turn on
No worries. Welcome.
the camera. I'm eating right now, and I expected more people to be there. But yeah, I just want to say hi and be there for this meeting because I wrote down some few topics I want to talk about. And so yeah, I was just jumping in right now, yeah, we can just continue. Sorry, but I'll be there.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for being here. I'm sure others will drop in as we go. Um, I think there was some more interest uh, in some of the other areas, um, but yeah, there is seems it'll be a quiet night tonight
Yeah,
or quiet meeting today. So in fact, do you want to talk about, we're kind of on that first point, a Python-based installer?
yeah. I started to work on something. I saw the script and it's huge, and I feel we were talking about creating some apps there, the Debian packages installed through apt, and I think it's a great far shot. I don't know how to say it properly, but in for now, for beta alpha release, I will propose to build some kind of Python based installer for make some kind of um, a nice migration and to make it more with better code than Bash. and also split the whole installation process into the multiple modules we already have. And I want to propose it. Maybe I already started to work on it. And I want to have some feedback from the community if we want to jump directly to the Debian packages or if we want to stick to the bash installation script, or what's the thoughts were here about this idea.
Yeah. So my thought is probably this is something we want to look at once we've got the 3.0 beta out, which which is covering a bit later on. Um, but yes, we need to relook at the installation script and how that currently is, because it's not not in a great way at all at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, Probably the best way of proceeding with this would be to open probably either an issue or a discourse post, probably. Yeah, maybe a GitHub issue. I do remember some way we were talking about it, but I'm a bit lost. I can't actually find it now that I'm looking for it.
I propose
Um,
already to build some kind of Ansible playbook and use Ansible to deploy our
yes.
infrastructure, but it was, I understand that it's not really portable to all systems and maybe a bit hard to, yeah, it's not a one script launch and done.
Hmm. Yeah, Python's probably a bit more um, or a bit easier to implement than a Ansible playbook for this, because it gives us a lot more flexibility in how things run.
Mm, yeah. Okay, I guess I will propose some kind of PR and see how the many thoughts we can have there on the GitHub, and we'll talk about this on the topic instead of here.
Hmm.
I think we can go through.
Otherwise, if you want some more discussion before sinking a lot of work into it, you can open a issue,
Yeah,
and we can iron it out and get some good planning there before a before having to actually do the code.
yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Cool. Right then, issues and PRs on our radar. I was hoping that maybe Roberts or Lucas would be on this call, just so that we could highlight these. But yeah, 1604 is end of life, and moving to deprecate that is probably a good idea.
Mm,
However, it makes upgrading from airtime more difficult, which isn't really a upgrade path that we've tested much, but it's something that ideally we wanted to support for the beta. Maybe what we do is instead look and make it a from your airtime, export the database and the music or in your media library, and then use those, run the migration scripts for the database and use those in a new system. At which point, as long as we keep the migration path to some standardized version, 3.0 beta would probably be a good one, before we change our migration scripts. Like, for example, moving to Django to handle migrations. Um, we just drop that ease of being able to run it on the same system as airtime's already on. You the sysadmin just has an additional step of exporting and re-importing the database and migrating the media library over, before running the installer and migrating the database through at this point proper.
Could we? It is actually. I'm thinking it's actually quite a good idea, and we're talking about many topics like building a proper configuration package for the Python services, and also many things in the scripts are migration processes, like removing some old files. And with what you say, we could simply propose people to install LibreTime, clean the database and move the files, and it will be a way cleaner migration
Mm.
process than trying to make some yeah continuity into the two between the two softwares.
Yeah, because we've got much of the database migration support built in because we continued using Propel, and the that's been handling migrations of airtime too. Um, so until we move off Propel, which would be once Django handles it, so after 3.0 beta, um, a import and migration run should be enough to migrate a existing airtime database.
Yeah. Because there is any if there any topic I might miss that making the migration between airtime and libertime difficult.
Um,
I mean, we don't have to talk about it right now. Maybe a ticket on GitHub will be more complete, but
uh, Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that would make it difficult. Especially if we're not supporting a in-place upgrade um, from airtime to LibreTime. So I'm seriously tempted to just propose a PR deprecating both Debian Stretch and 1604. Well, I'll do one for each, and have those try get those merged fairly soon. Just because they both end of life now, and there are other ways of migrating. We do, however, need to test that migration method. So migrating, exporting, importing, and running a migration um, to upgrade from airtime to LibreTime and document that, because that is something that would be very good to have for a 3.0 beta.
okay.
Cool. And then next up is Dear SysVNet. So there's a proposal to drop Sys 5 SysVNet
Mm.
from LibreTime. So we have existing scripts that aren't installed anywhere at the moment. Every distro that we support uses systemd. So we have scripts, but no idea whether they work, how much they work. Um, so it may be a good idea to just drop them completely. If someone wants to run LibreTime on a non-systemd system, they are more than welcome to go back in the Git history, find them. Could even propose pull requests to include them again later. Um, but I don't think anyone on the or any of the maintainers run a non-systemd OS or distro at all. So supporting and maintaining those scripts is not really working at the moment.
And in addition to that, I will also, it was a small question in the ticket I proposed, and I was also proposing to drop Upstart, but it was really far-fetched because I really don't know how Upstart works and if it's still used, and I don't have any idea of how CentOS and Red Hat works with their Linux distribution. So it was really some crazy idea I had, and just wanted to ask if maybe some more thoughts could complete the question.
Yeah. And if anyone has comments, I am tracking the YouTube chat, the Matmos chat, chat.libretime.org, and the discourse post for this meeting. But also, you're welcome to drop a comment in the GitHub issue. It's number 1247 and linked in the agenda for feedback there. Um, I also don't know of any of our system or supported systems that run Upstart. So again, I think that's legacy stuff that we don't necessarily even know works at the moment. Cool. And then, yeah, some sort of way of gaining feedback from the community would be helpful. Um,
Yeah,
at the moment,
sorry. Yeah.
our kind of only way of doing it is through discourse or a GitHub issue, but discourse tends to be more frequented by users than GitHub, whereas GitHub's more kind of LibreTime developers, not many actual users.
Okay. And I put some opt-in telemetry at the end of the sentence, and I was wondering if I'm really not for having some kind of Google stuff mixed in the software, but having some basic idea like the system the labor time is running on, or the version the per person is using could have some kind of benefits. Yeah, I mean, it's also a a big feature that's proposed in this bill quote,
Mm.
in parentheses. And I was just asking whether it was some kind of good idea. If we had, I'm willing to implement it if we discuss it first here. But yeah, I was just having this idea. I want to know what's the basic thoughts about the community again.
Yeah, so telemetry we need to do carefully, however we do it, or if we do it. Um, I agree, it would all need to be self-hosted, and so we would actually need to run some sort of our own server or telemetry gathering server, um, which we have the funds for, but we would need. So a couple of things blocking this. There's the spending proposal that would need to be passed so that we can actually use that out of the funds that we've gathered. Um, then we could use that to run our own server. There's a couple things I wouldn't mind running on our own server, like some sort of dev blog and potentially the telemetry stuff. Um, and so, yeah, it definitely is a long term kind of goal, um, but potentially something useful again. I think a probably a discourse post there would be the best
Mm,
to kind of get the feeling of more than just the developers.
okay. I think I'll try to create a post on Discourse, and I first need to create an account. But yeah, I will try to gather a basic idea of first. Sorry, also want to know some what kind of information do we want from the community? Like, should we create a survey like to know which kind of information we would like to have, or is this only to answer this sys5 and upstart and systemd problematic?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. Probably distro version and yeah, like OS version would be helpful. It's kind of know where we should be targeting, whether it's 1804 or Debian or CentOS, kind of where our focus should be. And yeah, that's off the top of my head. That's probably something. Oh, and kind of maybe user experience with managing and maintaining Linux systems, because a lot of our work has the assumption that the person installing and managing LibreTime doesn't really know how to use the Linux command line.
Mm.
So we try and minimize using it as much as possible, have it be as easy and smooth of an install process as possible. But if we find that maybe there's only technical people installing it and no one, they're all comfortable with Linux, have been using it for years, then we could look at maybe doing some more advanced kind of command line focused stuff. So have backups and restore run through a shell script instead of through PHP or something like that.
Oh,
Um, that would be helpful to know.
okay. I tried to gather all this information and create a post on discourse. I think it's a good idea
Yeah,
to create this.
awesome. That'd be great. Cool. Then the 3.0 beta. So progress since last time, or our last meeting. Two things: the API has been merged, so that'll be as part of a 3.0, as well as we finally got rid of all the Flash references, so none, and from the code base completely. So there's none in there. The only things left now are upgrades from airtime, and if we dropping 1604, that becomes less of it's more of a documentation thing than an actual code thing, and we've got that there too. And the watch files, watch folders, automatic import, which, yeah, we've spoken at length about, but is actually very tricky to do. I don't even, maybe we don't even need it as a 3.0 beta. I mean, it is a blocker for some people migrating from airtime, um, but there are other ways of doing some of those things. Up, so there's potentially a workaround there, or someone, if you really want it, maybe look at leveraging the 2.0 API, because you've got direct write access to the database at that point, and so you can do an API upload of files to the database and to the server that way. And then the rest of the blockers are all documentation. There's documentation for backup, and upgrade and best practices for upgrading of running instances from one LibreTime version to another. That's pretty much done. So I actually think we are almost there on a 3.0 beta. I'll try get some consensus from the other maintainers, and hopefully maybe in the coming months we can release a 3.0 and get things moving, because once that's out and we kind of have stabilized there, we can do a lot more large changes, things like rewriting the front end, and things like that. Gus in Mattermost asks, are all the issues or the blocker issues claimed? At the moment, none of them are. But I'd like to go through and maybe try work out some of the documentation ones in the next couple of weeks. But if anyone has some ideas on the watch folders, by all means, please let us know. Comment on the issue in GitHub. Um, it's number 70, or uh, chats on chat.libretime.org. There, there's a developers channel, but we kind of follow there as well.
About the watch folders, I was wondering, do we really need the reactivity of having watch folders as like because the all was the title of this feature is watch folders, and I feel the reactivity is really the problem of these features, the feature, and I feel it could be a cron running nightly or a call to an API to trigger some kind of analysis. It will be way easier, I think. I don't know if this is really the blocker or maybe I'm just missing something.
Yeah, the reactivity is kind of got lost or got stuck in the, okay, what happens if a file is deleted on disk? Do we delete it from the database? Do we mark it as unavailable, which would require quite a bit of reworking of how the database is used? And what happens if you delete it from the database? Do you remove it from the disk? Do you just block it from importing again? Um, so yeah, the reactivity is kind of the issue there. If we have um, if we have some sort of way of, because I think there is a script to import things into airtime, or maybe I'm getting like doesn't moving import, or oh, there was a PR for it that was work in progress and never actually got anywhere. Never mind. Um, so yeah, there's with API 2.0, we can write directly to the database. So we could well write a client that imports data from, oh, allows you to upload, essentially have a remote upload client that could then run via cron and just dumps it into the database. Then we don't have to manage um, all of the kind of um, syncing and reactivity based on what's happening in the database versus what's happening on the file system.
Okay. Okay, I get it. Sorry, I didn't understand properly. Like I thought the watch folders was based like the file won't move at all. Like there are moved in the storage folder, and this is the folder who is watched. And I thought it was some kind of import folder. You put files in here, and then the file gets moved in the new storage.
Yeah. So that is probably a better way of approaching it for the moment. But yeah, how watch folders were implemented in Airtime was it's a separate folder that you can point LibreTime to and say, watch for changes in this directory. When there are, add them to the database and allow us access to it. Um, but not, but don't move them from where they are.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. And then, yes, if anyone is interested in helping with any of the blocking issues or any of the issues, by all means, come chat to us, chat.libretime.org or GitHub or Discourse. We don't bite. By all means, we welcome any and all help. Right, yeah, upgrade, backup, restore, possibly from you using PHP to shell. Um, I'm not sure we need a backup feature for 3.0. That may work better as something we do after that, just so that we can get 3.0 out the door and stop getting stuck in kind of feature creep. So I'm not sure who added that to the agenda, but okay, Zach. So yeah, that's probably something better for after after beta, especially with the rewrite of the UI coming. It doesn't quite make sense to sink a lot of time into writing something with the existing UI that just gets rewritten once that gets merged in. Cool. Next, we're moving to a question and answer kind of session. If anyone has any questions, I am following the YouTube chat, the Matmos chat, and discourse. So feel free to ask anything you have in there. Um, but first, yeah, do we want to talk about when making bold large changes to the code base? Maybe after LibreTime 3.0.
Yeah, this was a few of my questions. Like I'm trying to make some bold changes because I feel the repository needs some kind of cleanup. But I need to know if it is appropriate to do it right now or if we should wait after LibreTime 3. Like, I propose a change to rename some folders, some services. For instance, people could be named playout. I know it's not really useful technically, but I feel it's cleaner and easier to understand which are the different parts of this project. And so I was asking simply if such change were welcome, or how are we seeing this before releasing LibreTime 3? Are we open to some large code change, or I don't know, maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah, probably I'd say let's push them out to after 3.0, just so that I think we've been trying to get a 3.0 out for years, but I think now we are actually close to it. And there's a lot that, or the issues there that may not need to be blocking issues. There are quite a bit of documentation stuff to do, but not actually much code. So maybe we look at focusing on getting those documentation changes into the current master, cut a 3.0 release, and then look at doing a lot of restructuring, especially with pulling in the new Vue UI. It would kind of bring all of that into one large post 3.0 release.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Mind if anyone
Sorry.
wants to ask any questions. The chat, YouTube chat, and um, chat.libretime.org, the Matmos chat, are both being monitored at the moment. So feel free to ask your questions there. And then, yeah, I've tied together for a client of mine a way of doing live Mumble shows to LibreTime. So streaming a group live show from Mumble. It's useful for them to do shows where everyone is remote, because no one can get into studio. Um, they're, they're a college campus radio, had a lot of fire damage at the beginning of the year, plus pandemic, so they haven't been able to get into studio for a year and a half now. Um, so we've been developing that to kind of allow them to continue on doing live shows without needing to be in studio. So if anyone is interested in how to do that, there's a link in the agenda. I wrote a blog post on how we achieved it. I thought it may be helpful for those doing remote remote shows at the moment. The work in the improvements that I'd like to make to that is doing a WebRTC front end. So there are a couple of those for Mumble, but it would allow us to, or allow them to not have to install and manage Mumble and get talk any guests through it either. They can just point them to a link and be on air. Cool. If there are no other questions, can move on to any other business. Is there anything else that anyone would like to raise? By all means, put a post in chat or in YouTube. I would like to remind everyone that Fund OSS is running at the moment, so Fund open source. A couple of similar software projects that we are contributing to or we work with are involved, like the Open Producer program, the Open Producer platform, sorry, and AzureCast. So if you are interested in donating there, you can go to fundoss.org, fundopensourcesoftware.org, and contribute there. Okay, there's a question from RJ Rocky Jess asking, can they customize LibreTime? They want to make their own radio broadcast software. By all means, LibreTime is licensed under the AGPL, which is a copyleft license. So you are welcome to make changes to LibreTime, provided that you make those changes available to your users. But I would recommend maybe looking at you incorporating things into the base LibreTime system, because the changes that you make may well be useful for other people too. So look at how can you how whether the changes that you would like to make are useful in the base system or not. If they're not, run your own. But if they are, and most of the time they are, look at merging them back into LibreTime itself. Right. Then, are there any other things to cover? Anything else anyone would like to add?
Not on my side.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Our next meeting will be at 1900 UTC on the 17th of July, which is a Saturday. So it's the third Saturday of July. Yeah, third Saturday of July at 1900 UTC. So that's the morning in the US, the evening in most of Europe, and the middle of the night in Asia and Australia and New Zealand. So have a look and just see what that is in your time zone, and we shall see you then. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks.
Cool. Let me just keep an eye on this so I can end the stream.